I stopped paying for my ex's bills because her new boyfriend moved in. My ex and I split up about 3 years ago. No bad feelings, we just drifted apart until we realized that we were now co-parents. Not husband and wife anymore. Got it. We have 2 kids, 13 and 10. My ex used to work as an infrastructure engineer, and I was working as an owner driver with my own truck. By the way, this comes from Revolutionary Half 170, and if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/OKStorytime subreddit. So, at around the time the kids were born, we decided that she was going to be a stay-at-home mom. The trucking was going well, and I had bought a second truck and a van, so I stayed home doing all of the planning and admin while I had the trucks and van out. When the smallest started school, the ex wanted back to work part-time, but her time out of the workforce had hit her really hard, and she needed to learn lots of stuff, and basically she couldn't get back in at her previous level and had to pretty much start over. Over the years, the haulage firm had expanded, and frankly, it was getting a bit of a pain in the butt. We were too big for where we were and were needing to move to a new yard, so I sold it off for a reasonable sum and set up freelancing as a dev. Did computer science at uni. We both had relatives pass away, leaving us property and money, so we were mortgage-free on the family home. When we split, I moved into a house that I had inherited. We basically split the assets in half, split the costs of the kids' activities in half, and when we were sat looking at the money, she concluded that she would need to go back to work full-time and she would miss time with the kids, as they were with me the 3 days that she was at work and every other weekend. I felt a bit bad for that because if she hadn't been out of work for so long, then she would be in a better place career-wise. So I offered to cover half of her bills until the kids went off to uni. She didn't want to at first, but I said to her that she helped me out and had now suffered as a result, so it was only fair that I returned the favor. It's helping my kids out, and I didn't want her to be running down the savings that was essentially the kids' inheritance. So the situation has worked out about as well as it can. We co-parented happily, everything is all good. Until she met a new guy. He's someone we knew from way back, but we lost touch with. They started dating, she's really happy, and she's talking about him moving in, which I'm okay with. The kids get on with him, and I trust her judgment and know that she wouldn't put anything ahead of the kids. So I said to her, if Lado is moving in, you won't need the money towards the bills, will you? And she said no, she wouldn't, but she was thinking of putting it into the kids' accounts. Great idea, says me. I'll put some on their cards for pocket money and the rest in their savings. So that was what we agreed. But when the new chap found out, he went up the wall and accused me of being controlling and of financial abuse. A few of our friends have also said that he's got a point and that it looks like jealousy. So am I the a-hole here? There are some edits and clarification. We have joint 50-50 custody of the kids, so I have no actual obligation to be paying anything. But that said, I don't want my kids to miss out on their many and varied activities, so I carry on paying for half of those. Likewise, I offered the extra money to help with bills because I wanted my kids to benefit from time with both parents and also to not have to live in a house where money is a worry. Some have mentioned when division of assets from inheritance and selling my business, these are mostly locked away in long-term investments, so they aren't available. We were perhaps unwise in doing this, but we saw it as the kids' inheritance. My ex would rather have worked more than dipped into that money for living costs. The ex has been around for a cup of tea and a chat. It seems that Lado was indeed thinking that she was his meal ticket. Apparently, he had suggested moving in, but not told her that his landlord was ending his tenancy on a Section 21 to sell the property. When she started discussing money and his contribution, he asked why when I was paying for the kids. So she told him that if he was living there, he needed to chip in, and that if he moved in, she couldn't keep asking for money from me. So she's upset, and I think that that's going to be over. In the meantime, he's ranting to anyone that'll listen that I'm the typical evil, jealous ex and controlling her with money. Comment number 1 says, not the a-hole, looks like he was interested in the free ride, and now that the gravy train has stopped, he's all upset. Your ex has no issues with the money stopping because she isn't interested in taking advantage of you, and 2 adults living together should be able to cover their own expenses, but new boyfriend doesn't want that. Comment number 2 says, not the a-hole, tell anyone moaning that you pay child support for your children, not grown men looking for a free ride. He'll already be saving in rent as the house is paid for. Is he really looking for his bills and groceries to be paid for by you too? If someone moves into another's home, they contribute to living there. That being said, contribute to, not pay half as your kids are eating the food and running up the utility bills. On to the update. Thanks for all the comments and advice. Just thought I would update you all on last week. So, Lado turned out to have being punted out of his place, not through fault. The landlord was selling. Okay, gotcha. He hadn't told my ex. Also, he works with my best mate who told me that he's on incredibly thin ice and was on his last chance for attendance. Me, the ex, and Lado got together at that weekend and had a long chat. The main points were, if he's going to be her partner and live there, then he has to set up and contribute both financially and also with the children. As regards to the bills, both my ex and I had an expectation that another adult in the house would be contributing, meaning that bill money from me would be superfluous. I agreed that stopping the money because someone moves in and potentially restarting it if they move out does look like it's controlling, although it was agreed that I didn't have that intent. I said that I would continue giving my ex the money and that if it was surplus to requirements that she would put it in the kids' accounts. I do trust her that she would do this. At that point, I left and went home thinking that all was good. I'm on holiday with the kids this week and I got a warning that the house alarm was going off. I rang my neighbor and he went around and said that one of the windows had been smashed and that my other car had all of its windows smashed. I logged into my cameras on the iPad and sure enough, it's Lado smashing the F of the car and throwing bricks at the window. Turns out that after I left, him and the ex had a major talk where she laid out some home truths and expectations, and when she didn't like the reaction, she ended it. So a couple of days later, he got pissed and came around to my place and smashed it up. I obviously reported it to the police, and with me being away, they spoke to me over the phone and asked me to send all the footage if I could and a statement, and they would speak to him that day. Turns out he got stopped on the way back from my house. He was over the limit and was sleeping it off in custody before he could be charged. I've seen a couple of comments about how I need to speak to the ex and tell them to be more careful. I 100% trust her judgment in who comes into the kids' lives. I was just as surprised by him as she was. And like most people, she's capable of learning from experience. Also, another edit, the Glaziers have been back out. I owe the lady next door big style for all the help that she's been, and apparently the total bill just for the house is going to be about 7,000 pounds. That's not counting the car, which is an old Rover I was restoring, so no idea how much that will cost. There are some comments. Comment number 1 says, some people just can't help themselves from self-sabotaging. OP says, I've got some sympathy to a certain extent because he suffers really badly with PTSD from when he was in Iraq for Optelic. But I was there too, and it's like, dude, we're all suffering, but you have to do something to help yourself, and he never has. Someone else responds, I still think he did you a favor by showing who he was so completely. Like $7,000, hopefully less post-insurance, is a lot, but it's pennies compared to what someone like this could manage after a couple of years. Seems like the type to drain the kids' savings accounts, take whatever money or stuff he can, and be a massive pain in the butt to get to leave once he was settled. And that is the end of that story.